r/AskReddit asks. People of Reddit, what are your thoughts on the coronavirus outbreak in China? Are you worried about the possibility of it spreading throughout the world, or is that not plausible? Singaporean here. We aren't playing around anymore, they've mandated temperature screenings. I had my temperature taken 3 times today because my company's HR policies collided with the facility manager's policies. We adjusted so it'll be down to the mandated 2 tomorrow. There's been a run on non-perishable food and flu masks. Shit's already pretty real here. Hong Konger here, face masks, tissue paper and hand sanitizer are extremely sought-after items. 2 weeks mandatory quarantine for people arriving from the mainland. No idea how effective that is. Lol. 1 month school suspension in place till 2nd March. 38 confirmed cases with 1 fatality. Shit's about to hit the fan here. Not a Hong Konger but live here. The quarantine is a decent idea but was implemented late, leading to 60,000 mainlanders crossing over on Friday. After I heard of the family of 9 that got the virus by sharing a hot pot, I also think that shit is about to hit the fan. I'm nervous. Not panicked, but nervous. It seems to only be spreading in China really. All cases that have been reported outside of China seem to be isolated and the sickness doesn't seem to be all that lethal. China is sort of the worst place in the world for this to happen. Secretive government, huge cities with a lot of people in small places, health facilities that are in no way shape or form to handle situation, and large international flight presence. I think the deaths seem higher in China due to the strain on their healthcare capabilities. Too many people, too close to each other, and not enough healthcare facilities to handle. Let's just go to the Winchester and wait for this whole thing to blow over. Might as well have a pint as long as we're there. Honestly, I have to say I've resigned myself to accepting whatever happens. I'm in New York so I'm not worried yet. But if it reaches here it could potentially spread quickly. People are disgusting when they are sick and don't understand basics like covering their mouths. At this point I'll either get it or I don't. Well, and with this strain you can spread it before you even know you have it, so that's fun. 40,000 cases sounds like a lot, but they're mostly concentrated in Hubei, a province of 58 million people. Even if you lived at the epicenter of the outbreak, your odds are not bad. Less than 1 in 1,000, so far. Add to that the severity/death rate being not terrible, less than 1,000 deaths, and the median age of fatal cases is 75 years. If you're young and relatively healthy it presents as a bad flu for a few days. We should work to contain it, but we also need to tone down the doomsday reporting which is just causing anxiety in people who are at close to zero risk. Edit, Hubei province, not Hunan. American here. The media likes to scare people. It's how they get views and money. I think it is a concern, but not something to panic and go doomsday prepped about. Panicking makes things get worse. Arizonan here. I was really impressed that our 1 case of the coronavirus is from an ASU student who saw the news, realized he had been in the area when it became a thing, didn't show symptoms but went and quarantined himself just to be sure if he had it he didn't spread it around our university. Media came and took the story and turned it into panic. Currently living in Shanghai. I'm honestly not too worried. The main issue is that it spreads very fast but it's not that deadly. You just have to be smart about staying safe. Currently I'm working from home and avoiding public places. Same. Looking at the comments here, some people are more panicked than me and I live in Shanghai. Basically it's self-quarantine, and if you must go out just wear a mask. As someone who has chronically shitty lungs since birth, I see it as death heading my way. I watched my wife die 8 months ago from breast cancer, so I'm not afraid of death anymore. Sorry for your loss, but try to stay safe. I'd recommend, get lots of supplies. Be prepared to be able to stay at home and be sick if that happens. Odds are you won't get it, but be careful. Worse comes to worse. Go to Greenland. Plague Incorporated has taught me that Greenland is invincible. I have that game on my phone and I love playing it, but I feel a little rude about doing it these days. Hong Kong people here. 100% sure will spread at least Southeast Asia. Don't trust Chinese government. Yes, Southeast Asia with all the overseas workers/students/tourists repatriated back to their countries. The other week ago, one of my family members who work at the airport saw this lady who wasn't from Wuhan and it matched the symptoms with the coronavirus, and after that she was escorted to isolation or whatever. The scary part is just how easy it was to almost spread outside of the airport. Of course, almost everyone in the airport has to wear special gear to inspect tourists and etc. Sorry for really bad grammar. I wonder if China isn't overhyping coronavirus to distract from the Hong Kong protests. Haven't read much on the protests since the virus came out. If that's true, they didn't consider the fallout that could occur. The initial miscommunications, a belief that the government was withholding information from the public, the fear of quarantine, running out of food, isolation, other general health concerns, criticism of the government following the death of the doctor. All of it could coalesce into even more government criticism. People are scared and angry. At least with Hong Kong, the CCP could just claim that it was a problem of an errant SAR who thinks they're so different because they were colonized by the British and yada yada yada, but now the issue is China-wide. I'm just wrapping up my in-house quarantine, after fleeing from China right as they started locking down the city I was in. It's pretty scary stuff and is interfering heavily with my career, so I hope shit gets contained ASAP. How do you justify fleeing, knowing that you could be carrying the virus and be responsible for an outbreak in the country that you fled to? In your case it sounds like you took the necessary precautions of the quarantine, but I know many people who have fled have not self-quarantined. I'm from Russia. Used to be worried about it but not anymore. The world's collective efforts to prevent the spreading seem sufficient. Africa has only 6 testing labs and 1.2 billion people. Not to mention they also have over 1 million Chinese migrants living in the continent. That is far from sufficient. It is on the news all the time, but there is no case in the Netherlands yet. I find it a bit strange that some countries bring their inhabitants back from Wuhan to keep them under quarantine in their own country. I think it would be better to all stay in Wuhan to prevent the virus from spreading to other countries, even though other countries may have better treatment. Someone I know had a colleague who came back from Wuhan and was supposed to be in home quarantine for 2 weeks, but the colleague was seen shopping 2 days after she came back. So home quarantine is useless if nobody makes sure that the person stays inside.